to 100% Woo Podcast, your weekly dose of magical wisdom. So first things first, you do not need to tattoo a snake on your arm, go to Burning Man with your spiritual besties, or ditch your therapist in order to step into the badass, powerful soul who effortlessly attracts money, magic, and inner peace into your world. Isn't that good news? Now, if you have heard influential women talk about leaving hustle for flow, admitting to doing sex magic in order to manifest abundance in their lives, or casually mention something called a dark night of the soul, even crediting their own intuition for some of their most successful decisions that they've made. They mention things like shadow work or reducing their mom rage with microdosing mushrooms, and you're sitting there going, some of this sounds really cool, and sometimes I just don't really get what's really going on. Then this show is made for you. Here's the thing. Your soul, it's already deeply spiritual. And so it's okay for your mind to simply just be curious right now. What we're here to do is to awaken that inner knowing that's already deeply tucked away inside of you, and to explore in a transformational journey how to align your reality to your soul's truth. So join me every week as we dive into topics like spiritual awakening, empaths, self-care, highly sensitive people, dealing into how to heal generational, karmic, past life traumas, how to regulate your nervous system, balance your energy. We'll discuss practical strategies for achieving balance without having to sacrifice all of the success that you've already worked hard for. And together we'll explore how to engage with your spiritual support system. Yes, that means spirit guides, and unlock the magic that's been waiting inside of you all along. So if that sounds good, go ahead and subscribe to 100% Woo Podcast, and let's embark on this magical journey together. Today is an exciting day for me. It is not the first episode that I have recorded, but it is the first episode that I am for the 100% Woo Podcast. Now, as I've journeyed in the podcasting space since 2020, the literal week that COVID hit, and I was running a fitness business at the time and shuttered the business for what I thought would be 2 weeks, but felt it would be much deeper and longer, and it was. So I've had many different twists and turns in the podcasting space, but if you're listening to this right now, I want you to know that you are joining me in the very first episode of a really beautiful journey. And I can feel how deeply resonant this particular podcast name and title really is. I've gone through such a tremendous rebrand, rebirth, and transformation. Phoenix rising style, like from the ashes, that girl is on fire. That has been what it has felt like for the past 4 years. And to birth this podcast feels incredibly sacred. And I just want to say thank you. I'm getting emotional, but thank you for giving my voice a place in your life. Thank you for going to episode 1 and being with me in episode 1. What I can feel will be a really beautiful and sacred journey for many years to come. It's no small thing in a sea of voices in the world that you found me. And I'm so grateful to have you with me in this journey. So thank you so much, first and foremost. So as I was thinking and literally doing yoga, and today is the Libra eclipse in October 2024. And I was just pondering this surge of energy, and I just felt spirit was like, just go record a freaking podcast. And I was like, okay, on what topic? And the first topic that felt really resonant was, let's go into what empaths are and how to identify if you are one, what makes it tricky to navigate the world as an empath, how to cope with it, and how to turn it into a superpower. Because ultimately, if you are a highly sensitive, emotionally intelligent, tuned in human, it's dense. It's very easy to slip into a worldview of everything's against me. Everyone could be a threat or targeting me, or I feel victimized by what's going on. And I by no means want to marginalize or bypass the genuine truth that might hold for many, many of us. but at the same time wanting us to reach and orient for how can we create safety in our bodies and in our lives so that we are able to reach for a more generous, loving interpretation of the world around us and be extensions of that love to the world. Because if you are an empath, and I will get into what that means and how to know if you are in a hot second, so don't leave yet. But if you are an empath, you need to know that the world was not made for you, but you were absolutely made for it. And the world needs you in a huge way right now. There are world events unfolding right now that are terrifying, super, super scary. And as empaths, we're so sensitive to that. But our sensitivity and our big hearts and our heart-led leadership and the way that we make decisions for collectives over our individual gain is exactly what the world needs more of. So what is an empath? If somebody would have said, "Oh, Paden, are you an empath?" 4 years ago, I would have been like, what is that? I don't even know what I would have thought it was, but it wouldn't have been anywhere close to the world of sensitive souls. Like, I just wouldn't have known. Like, is this an alien term? What does this mean? Is this someone you can major in? Is this some kind of disease that you can contract that we're defining ourselves by? Like, I just don't know what I would have thought it was. And the irony is, I've been an empath my whole life and not understood what it was, because the real modern tragedy for so many of us, I believe, is that we have gotten away from our kindness, our sensitive souls, our really emotionally intelligent side of us, and we've hidden and we've contracted and we've masked so that we can survive, so that we can live. But it's not the way we were designed to survive. It's not the way we were designed to live. And hell, let's just throw out surviving and try to contemplate a world in which we could thrive with this way of being. So a very simple definition of an empath is simply someone who feels and absorbs emotion and energies of others or environments. I might throw that out there. Inanimate objects could work as well. Things like this. You roll into Trader Joe's and you feel a contraction in your body and you feel sadness kind of wash over you. And if you're not just in the hustle in that moment and you're kind of tuned in with yourself, you're like, whoa, what just happened? And you look over and there's somebody looking at the cards, the greeting cards section, and they got a tear rolling down their face and they're picking up a get well soon card. And you instantly feel this overwhelming desire to walk over to them and just give them a freaking hug and say, I'm so sorry that someone you love isn't well. And you're with them, total stranger or not, you are with them in that moment. That's what an empath is. Now, it doesn't have to exactly be that, but I just wanted to bring you into a daily experience that could be very common for an empath. It could be very common. We're going to go into how do you know you're an empath? Because if you're like me, and rose in the world of self-diagnosed psychotherapy, and if you follow on social media, so many amazing content creators that give nice, tidy little checklists that allow you to feel less alone, but also slightly more titled. Or it's like all of a sudden, instead of having all these degrees behind the side of your name, you all have all of these self-diagnoses beside your name. But I think that it's a nice way to feel like the places that we feel shame, sometimes the places that we feel deeply misunderstood, the places where we feel where we've been rejected because of it, to give it a name and to more deeply understand what was really going on holds tremendous healing power. So let's talk about 10 signs that you're an empath. Now, this is not exhaustive. There could be 48 for all I know. There could be 132, but we don't have time for that. So let's go into the 10 signs that you are an empath. You ready? 1, you feel overwhelmed in crowded spaces. Picture this. You roll into a concert and everyone's milling around in the foyer, and it's before the show, and people are dressed up. Some people are wearing red. Some people are having like really strong cologne, all of a sudden you're like, ooh, like I'm not loving that smell. And then there's someone's trying to like facilitate music into the corner. People are laughing, chatting, drinks are clashing, people are stepping on someone's hem, and the other person's upset at it, but trying to pretend that they're not. And all of a sudden you're just like, there's a lot of people here. I don't know how I feel about this. And you're sort of trying to find equilibrium in that moment because you're a little bit wobbly in your energy. That's a sign you're an empath. The second sign you're an empath is you absorb the emotions of others. This does not have to be something you're consciously trying to do. In fact, for many of us, it's something we don't realize we're doing. Let me just paint a picture. Let's say you sit down at a family gathering and it's a family reunion. You all haven't lived alongside of each other day in and day out for a few years now. And you grab a plate and you sit down and oh my God, you look around this table and you're like, somebody is pissed. And boom, you know exactly who it is. And you can feel it in them and you can look around. You instantly know who can also feel it and who the person that they're mad at is. And you can just feel your own body shrinking and condensing and contracting because you feel the tension and you could cut it with a knife. That's not just you observing and being emotionally intelligent. What I just described was you actually pulling the emotions in the room into your body, into your own experience. Whether you meant to or not, those feelings, that tension just entered your body and you contracted. That's a sign you're an empath. The third sign you're an empath is you experience emotional exhaustion. Like you process some really deep feeling and you're exhausted. Have you ever watched a movie that was really intense and you are psychoanalyzing, whether you're a therapist or not, doesn't matter. Like your brain is just like hardwired to read humans and to understand in core, really deep levels what they've gone through. And all of a sudden you just feel this movie brought out so much for you and you are physically exhausted just processing the depths of the emotions from that experience. Happens for me a lot of times when I've gone into a very emotional place. For me, I feel like I was more tired than running a freaking marathon or the Tough Mudder in Tahoe at huge elevation. I remember doing that at 8 weeks pregnant. And honestly, I remember to this day, I can have a really intense emotional experience in myself. I don't even need to talk it out with someone, and I am wrecked with exhaustion because the work that I do emotionally feels physical, manifests as fatigue in my body. The fourth sign you're an empath, this is my favorite, is you have a strong intuition. It means that there are senses that you have. It could be that you see, hear, know at a deep level. You can feel in your body. You could smell. That's a new thing that's been showing up in my world is I can smell things that aren't there and it's giving me information. But it gives you information that you can verify whether, it's retroactive, meaning like you're reading that you're sensing that somebody had a really traumatized childhood, and whether you bring that up or not requires a degree of emotional intelligence and certainly relational permission. But you just know things. You just know things. And I love the phrase, you know, what you know, but you don't exactly know how you know it. There's like intelligence, which is I know what I know, and I can tell you and point to exactly how I know it's true. I can source it. I can tell you it. I can give examples for how my brain has reached that conclusion. That's intelligence. That's a different thing. I mean, intuition is a different type of intelligence. Well, I'll just say it that way. Intuition is when you know something, but there is no logical left brain explanation for how you know it. Besides, you know it and it is verifiable. Whoa. How cool is that? That's like a superpower. And in our podcast where we're talking all things magical, spiritual, etc., like I guarantee my listeners are empaths because we're going to go into how to harness this into a superpower. Episode by episode, it's going to be a really cool experience. Okay, the fifth way that you can know or a sign that you're an empath is you need alone time to recharge. Now, if you followed my journey, if you read my best-selling book, Take Two, you'll know that I disregarded this one for a very long time. And in fact, the number one fear I had in my life was being alone with myself because I didn't like myself and I didn't know how to do anything alone except for to numb and distract myself. But those of us that have preserved that connection to our warm-hearted, kind, generous self, you're probably still connected very strongly to the desire to have alone time to recharge. This could be reading a book and you just snuggle into your cozy chair and you have a nice cup of tea and you've got some soft lighting and you're like, this is the life. Or you're someone that knows that you just need to be in nature, another sign that you're an empath, by the way, and you decide that long walks are really restorative for you and you prefer not to go with 3 of your best friends who will all be talking about their lives and giving you more information and more energy to consume. What you really just crave is a little solitude so you can ground and anchor your energy back into yourself. So that's a real sign that you're an empath. Also, if you're a parent, keep in mind your children with this list. As I literally just said that, and I'm honoring my daughter, who is the queen of empaths. And she will say, Mom, I need to have some alone time. She will walk herself into her room, close the door, and do whatever she does in there for her alone time. And when she's done, she comes out and re-engages with the world. And I love that she knows that about herself, and she is connected still to that at age 7. The 6th sign that you are an empath is you are very sensitive to things like noise, light, and your environment. The reason for this is that you are just picking up on subtleties. You're tuned into the environment. You're tuned into things like it's too cold. So like you roll in and you're like, oh my God, it's like a 10-degree difference. And you're instantly looking for a blanket because you just want to be cozy. That happens to me often. It could be that the light is really bright. And particularly if you move into like an office space or a restaurant and the LED light, just like even the temperature of the light is so piercing that it really affects you. It could be that blue light from your phone before bed or in a darkened space is very offensive. It's almost like you recoil because it's too much for you. And then noise. Like you get irritable, you get snappy, or you start shutting down and looking for exits whenever it just hits a certain decibel. You just can't. You might even be, and like sometimes when I listen to my own voice on podcasts, I hear a harsh S. I have literally gone through so many microphones to reduce the feedback of this because it offends me every time. I'm like shocked people listen. It's like there's an offensive S on a podcast and I'm like, oh my God, I've lost 20 people because all my people are empaths. Okay. The 7th sign that you are an empath is you're affected by violence or injustice in very visceral ways. I'll give an example without going into too much detail because you should probably just know what this, you probably already know this. A lot of empaths really understand that watching violence, particularly when women, children, or animals are being victimized, is just, it doesn't work. We'll just literally sob. I remember not realizing what the subject matter really was or thinking it would be lighter. Like, of course, it's about sex trafficking with UN operatives or UN officials being the people who were perpetrating it. And so like I knew it was going to be an intense storyline, but I was not prepared for any depictions of sexual violence against young women. And at the end of that movie, this is all before I knew I was an empath. I couldn't stop sobbing. God, I can feel it in my throat right now. I couldn't stop weeping for the women who didn't deserve it and for the injustice of these officials, these UN officials being given immunity, I think is what it's called. Diplomatic immunity, where like they're allowed, they're untouchable. Like no law can touch them. They're allowed to just create so much harm on these souls and no one's able to catch them. And I just sobbed for 3 straight hours. I was so overwhelmed. Now, what I now know is I have past life reasons to be very concerned about and very connected and triggered by the forced trauma and sexual trauma of young girls because I have lived that in so many past lives. But if you don't believe in past lives or you're not connected to that, you might simply just know, and that's okay, by the way. Like, you don't have to believe in past lives to like that, like what we're talking about, but you can still be really sensitive to violence at just a human level because you're like, I just can't handle someone hurting a cat for fun. Like, I can't handle a child being kicked out on the streets at age 11 because there's no safe place for them to be. Like, come to my home, I will care for you. That is, so much of the heart of the empath. Social justice causes are so deep for us, and it almost pains us how we can't care about it all at the same moment and do enough to help everyone. There's like a major piece there for a lot of empaths. The eighth sign that you are an empath is you prioritize others' needs. Now, whether we've been heavily conditioned to do this or not, it's really more about the fact that you can read people's emotions and anticipate their needs really, really well. And when you have a big and open heart and you can pick up someone's not doing well, and you can also intuit through your intuitive self what would actually bring them that moment of joy, that sense of appreciation, that word of encouragement, and it's within your capability to do it, you will reorganize your time and your life to be in service to others. And when it's not overdone, it will be a source of great joy for you. Genuine joy. You're not doing it for their approval. You're doing it as a way to be in connection to the heart of you that is so big and loving. It is such a joy for you to do it. Again, I'm not talking about the fear of being selfish because you want to be a good person, and so you're going to try to do anything but be selfish. Like, that's a whole different thing. We'll remove that from ourselves. But essentially, you just naturally anticipate needs from others. And when you can fill it, you do try to fill the void. The ninth sign that you're an empath is you feel like an outsider. I remember myself my early memories of myself in elementary school, perhaps you relate to this, was I got really hurt and felt very sad whenever I saw a classmate of mine be ridiculed, made fun of, or somehow excluded from, whether it was a game or a group of friends, whether it was for a reason or a season. And I just went around and collected all those little humans and decided that they were my friends and that we were fun and we were our own clique, if you will, the clique of the outcasts. And I was the queen of the clique of the outcasts because they were so people didn't get them, but I got them. People didn't see their magic, but I felt it, right? And everyone deserves to have a place. Everybody deserves to be seen and appreciated and loved, even if it seems quirky, weird, or unusual to others. Those are my people. Like, I just love them. And I know what it feels like. And empaths, we know what it feels like to not totally want to sit at a cocktail party and talk about what shoes you bought. Who the fuck cares? When I really am more interested in this cool new book that I've been reading and the 3 takeaways that I have on how it could make the world a better place. Like, empaths, we don't do small talk, right? Like, we're like, let's go in deep. Let's go into what matters. And in moments, sometimes those idiosyncrasies create a sense of we're too much for people, too much for spaces. Obviously, being an empath, you can already start to see becomes like this opening for other neurodivergent expressions of all of these beautiful gifts, but it's a nice starting place. The final, or not the final, but at least the 10th sign that you're an empath is you are drawn to healing practices. You care a lot about being healthy. And whether that manifests for you as supplements and you have an entire cupboard with 100 different holistic remedies for anything under the sun, and essentially you're an undercover herbalist, self-taught, great. That's a healing practice that brings you into a sense of I am in control over the way my body processes and experiences toxins and disease in the world. Amazing. Could be that you don't really understand why yoga feels so much better to you than CrossFit. You don't understand, but you just go like that, just, oh, my whole body relaxes in that space. Or you're really curious. You're not considering yourself to be intuitive or psychic or any of that, but like you love a good sound bath, or you love going to healing retreats. You love being in really cozy retreat centers that might be filled with all these woo-woo gurus, and you don't necessarily know if you're like them, but you like being around them because they just feel calming for you. Could be that you're really into going like to therapy and going into more kind of traditional ways of getting into a healing space. And there's a part of you that just knows having a weekly check-in on your mental, emotional health is really important for you, and you don't miss it. It's almost like a date with yourself, and you hire a therapist, and that's what you do. There are so many other healing practices, but if those resonate, then you're an empath. I'll run through them one last time. Just a quick mental checklist. 10 signs that you're an empath. 1, you feel overwhelmed in crowded spaces. 2, you absorb the emotions of others. 3, you experience emotional exhaustion. 4, you have a strong intuition. 5, you need alone time to recharge. 6, you're sensitive to noise, light, and environment. 7, you're affected by violence or injustice. 8, you prioritize others' needs. 9, you feel like an outsider. And 10, you're drawn to healing practices. So here is why it is so hard. If you are an empath, congratulations. Welcome to the club, tribe, whatever. Here we are. We're a club. And it doesn't always feel so rosy. I mean, what I just described means that it's really hard to navigate the world because the world is fast-paced. It's violent. It's jarring. It's noisy. It's chaotic. It's full of people who are running away from the feelings you can feel for them. It's people who are so disconnected from their needs and wants, they don't even know how to express them. So you constantly feel like you have to meet the needs of everybody around you. You're always wanting to be alone or in a healing environment, but you have to make money, so you can't quite get there as often as you want. You have a weird nagging sensation that you're not like everybody else, but you feel like you kind of have to be perceived as being like everybody else to fit in or to make the money or to be in that networking group, to be in that group of friends that you've had since childhood that you've changed so much from, but like you don't want to lose that. And you're tired and you're exhausted. There are so many ways that being this empath in this wild world can actually be perceived as a burden. I'm just going to share with you some of the ways that I have heard from my friends and my clients and I've experienced in my life that have created a sense of, gosh, it's hard. It's hard to be an empath in the world. And one of the first places is emotional overload. Have you ever experienced frequent feelings of anxiety, sadness, or anger? And you don't entirely believe that you're an angry person or you're really sad or you're even really anxious, but you feel like between the time you walked out of one building and into your car, you feel this wave of emotion over you that doesn't even feel like it's yours. That can create a lot of negativity in our lives, especially if we don't know how to protect our energy, especially if we don't know how to clear it. The second place is burnout. Burnout is very common for empaths because the world is really about speed, productivity, and bypassing and suppressing the very things that make you magical so you can just do more faster and push through things. Well, the magic and the power and what gives energy to the empath is the exact opposite of that. It's waiting for the flow state to click into the magical amount of ideas and inspiration that hits you and just flows from you, and you cannot command it to show up. And of course, in our business world and the world around us, that's not something that people are available to hear. It's like it should be on demand, right? Like we should have a tap like we would in a a keg. It should be able to go on and off whenever we toggle it. And if it can't do that, then it's not a skill worth having. And empaths are like, well, unfortunately, I am doing that in my own body, but I'm never powering off. I'm never actually turning myself inward and allowing myself to recharge. So in a sense, I'm constantly burning out. Or as a guru once told me when I went on a spiritual awakening in Sedona for the first time in 2020, she told me, Paden, you are a Toyota Tacoma acting like a Lamborghini. It's very unflattering, as you can imagine, but it was well taken because I had so normalized being in overdrive that I was mad at myself for my gears grinding, for me being fatigued, for me getting brain fog and feeling anxiety and depression and wondering why I'm even here. And like, why is my life even here? Like, what am I doing on planet Earth? Like, why am I even alive? Right? That's where it went for me because I was so exhausted. Constantly helping and caretaking led me to exhaustion and emotional burnout. Cyclically, this didn't just happen once. This happened with predictability. And I would just kind of hope that I could band-aid and limp my way to another phase of massive output, only to kick myself back down into a total state of burnout. Another way that empaths can really feel a negative sense is that we actually contract physical symptoms of stress more easily than others. Part of it, I think, is that we're more tuned to our bodies. Part of that's this being more sensitive. We're more intuitive, and so we can tell when we're not doing well. This is why I think empaths, unless we're numbing and avoiding it, we're actually very tuned. That's why we seek more healing practices, because we hate it when our body doesn't feel like it's working well. We're holding on to stress and it's in water weight all of a sudden, or like oh my gosh, I'll never forget this. This is a great story. I'm so glad I thought of this. I'll never forget when I started to go through a spiritual awakening. We went back to a resort that we always go to in Mexico. It's south of Cancun in a city called Puerto Morelos. And I love it. And we've had so many beautiful experiences there. But I remember this one year walking from the lobby into past the restaurant they were giving us a tour. We'd been there like 3 times. We're like, we get it. We know the place, but they're like, no, let us show you. And it's like an extension of their hospitality. So of course we went, and they brought us into a restaurant, and I bloated upon arrival. I don't know how else to describe it. My entire body looked 5 months pregnant instantly from walking from the entrance to the restaurant. And the first thing that I thought, and this is as I was starting to try to work with my intuition. So the first thing that pops into my mind is there are unhappy people in this restaurant, and I just absorbed their unhappiness. And I was like, oh my God, is that just what happened to me? Like, I feel so like pregnant with all these negative feelings that I know aren't mine. And I think I just absorbed it from that environment. And I kind of went into this whole, what do I do? And I'll get to that in a second. So that can happen. But sometimes our stress can manifest as things like headaches, stomach issues, fatigue, a lot of digestive issues, a lot of autoimmune, because autoimmune is so connected to inflammation. Inflammation is so connected to stress. Also, of course, if you have high sensitivities, as I now do in so many foods, that can also, but are tuned into that. Like, how many people live with borderline autoimmune for decades and don't realize like it's gluten? Like, just stop eating the gluten and stop drinking the beer. Like, go for something instead, right? So many physical symptoms. Side note, another sign of your spiritual awakening is when your body, you feel like, starts to attack you or feels like it's in rebellion to your lifestyle. Very, very prevalent in terms of what gives us the reason to question our lifestyle and look at the things that we have been running from looking at. Another way that being an empath is really tricky in the world is it's really hard for us to set boundaries. Part of it's that we struggle to say no because we feel like when we do, we can perceive instantly that somebody's resentful of us for saying no. And so because we don't want to create a negative feeling in someone that we can perceive probably better than they can perceive in their own selves, we're more tuned into the way our no impacts other people. And so picture this, you're an empath from age 5. And when you say, no, mom, I need to go to my room and to have alone time. And the mom says, no, you need to go set the table. And you go, but I really need to go into my room. And that mom has no idea about what empaths are, sensitive, whatever. And they don't understand how to honor that. Suddenly, then you can feel the mom's stress and anger and rejection of you and your desire. And all of a sudden, that 5-year-old learns real quick, you don't say no to mom, not around dinner time. Well, you fast forward that to 22 years old, and a boyfriend says, we're going to go do a cliff jump. And she says, no. And he says, why? Are you afraid? And then suddenly she feels the disappointment and the contraction in his body towards her and knows that he loves her slightly less because she doesn't seem to be as risk-taking as, and then she looks next to her, the woman next to her, who's his best friend, who wants to cliff jump with him, right? I literally just made that up. That did feel almost like that happened to me. So I'm wondering if some version of that happened. But the idea is, as empaths, when you're reading people and you read their emotions, like, you don't want to be a cause of anyone's suffering. So you will take on suffering yourself to help others not suffer, even if their suffering is simply just their reaction to you saying no, and they're over it in 5 seconds, but you're still thinking about it 2 years later. You can see how this starts to become very difficult to navigate the world. There's also avoidance of social situations. You could know that, gosh, I know I RSVP'd yes for my friends of a friend's wine tasting party / bridal shower / excuse to get drunk together, and I don't want to go today. And it's at 4 and it's 3:30 and you're like, nope, that's a hard pass for me. But you feel like you have to go, or it's too awkward to say no this last minute. You wish you would have told them it yesterday when you did also know yesterday you didn't want to go, but you just didn't do anything about it. But you wish you could just step away, or maybe you wanted to go to an event until you found out somebody else was going and you're like, yeah, no, I don't really want to go. That feels like a no from me. And you want to kind of like shrink away and go into your cave and just be alone. It's because we're afraid of being drained or overwhelmed and can lead us into patterns of social withdrawal. Now, sometimes that's really proactive and beautiful and a nice boundary for you to protect your peace. And other times it's an avoidance technique because we don't have coping skills or regulation skills to feel safe and to feel successful in those environments. This can also lead us into struggles in our relationships. It's really difficult to maintain healthy relationships when we're emotionally sensitive. Mainly, it's really hard when here's the thing, it's hard when they're emotionally insensitive and you're emotionally sensitive and they just don't get it. Just straight up, complete disconnect, stars crossing, not aligning. They just don't understand you. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, like that kind of concept. Or it's with another relationship with somebody else who's an empath. And a lot of empaths in my read can be very toxic people because they're so burdened, and I hold their souls at a very benevolent energy. Like, I believe empaths are incredibly delightful humans, and a lot of really delightful humans have forgotten how to be delightful and have just loaded themselves with so much baggage and heaviness that they are operating as a shadow of their true potential. And I have such a heart for these humans, even since I was a child, as I've already described. I love these kind of humans. I think I'm like drawn to help them unburden themselves, and it feels so freaking good to do that. But before I was ever able to do that as an adult, I have had to learn my own tools and techniques to reduce my own burdens and to clear my own energy so that I'm just not one energetic hot mess who's burdened, trying to unburden someone else. Like, can you get the visual of that? Like, somebody's just like, has like the world's largest backpack on top of them. And they've just like taken on all the water for the trip and they're doing a backpacking trip. And then somebody else needs help with their pack. And then they don't take anything off of their back and they try to help them. Like, can you see how almost comical this is and how predictable this is for some kind of sad thing to happen? Like, you both fall down and now your legs are dangling in the air and you don't know what's going on because all you tried to do as a burdened person was help another burdened person. And guess what? It didn't go very well. So struggles can happen in relationships where both parties are very empathetic, regardless of whether they're burdened or not. It can be really tricky to navigate that. And then one of the last ways I'll talk about how being an empath can be tricky in today's world is just feeling misunderstood. Just feeling like we don't belong. Like, gosh, I just feel like no one gets me. I'm feeling alienated. Others don't recognize me. They don't validate me. They completely miss how I poured all of me into that paper and my teacher just gave it a B minus and I'm pissed, or I wrote this beautiful song and everyone was looking at their phones when I played it for them. Or, I just want to share my gift with the world and it's not fast enough for everybody, or the message is it's too much. You're too much. Be less. Be less shiny, be less tuned in, stop reading my energy, stop trying to help the world, just care a little less, fit in a little more. The rest of the world doesn't care as much, the rest of the world doesn't feel as much, the rest of the world doesn't know as much, the rest of the world doesn't do anything as much as you, so just be less. And after you get that message, gosh, that sucks. Feeling misunderstood is one of the deepest wounds. And there's a lot of us out there that really feel so deeply misunderstood. And we try to talk ourselves out of it being a bad thing. Like, oh, well, it's okay. Like we've been used to this since we were kids. Yeah, but you know what? It was painful then and it's probably still painful now. And how freaking great it is when we find places, spaces, voices, and friends who get us, who understand, who make us feel a little less alone, who make us feel a little more recognized. Gosh, that's refreshing, isn't it? And I hope that that's my intention is that's actually what this podcast creates for people. So in the spirit of wrapping up this episode, what are some ways for empaths to cope? Like, how do we do this? Are we just screwed up for life? Are we navigating the world as these burdened, big-hearted, bleeding empaths that will like pour the blood of our lives out on the floor for anyone and they just step over it and turn their noses in the air and don't give a shit? Like, is that how it goes for us? No. As I said in the beginning of this episode, the world may not be for us, but we were sent here for it. I really believe that. Some of the oldest souls are the biggest empaths. And I know this so deeply from the past lives karmic clearing work that I do in one-on-one sessions with people and just in coaching with so many different empaths. Like, the gifts of empaths are so powerful. And there are 4 things you absolutely have to know how to do to turn what feels like a burden into a superpower. So I'm just going to go over those 4 right now in full awareness that there are plenty of healers in the world that can help you do this. There are great resources available to you, as well as I also offer ways to support you in this. But some of these are really easy to do, so let's go into that. The first thing is to protect and clear your energy. I know some people are really into visualizations, grounding your energy practices, getting into crystals. I remember the first time that I figured out that I was very toxic with a lot of people's emotions that I didn't ask for, didn't want, and wanted to clear out of me. I started to look for black tourmaline to put into like a necklace or a bracelet to kind of protect me. I would put it under my pillow to protect me. But what I've actually found has been the most helpful is what I'm actually going to say right now over you. And so if you wish to receive and you feel like you're aligned with me and I'm coming from a place of love and light, then I just invite you, even if you're driving, just like say, I receive. I'm open to this. Here's all it is. And I've got to find a way to make this more available to non-paying clients. But so just receive this now as a gratitude offering as we kick off this podcast. Dear God inside, God, the universe, whatever you vibe with, please surround me with a giant bubble of protection. And any energy not aligned with the highest love and light will simply bounce off of that energy bubble and go back to where it came from with love. That's it. And you can say things like, Please fill the energy bubble with love. Please remove from my energy body and my emotional body and my physical body any vibration of dissonance, negativity, disease. I ask that it exit out from my feet right now. And you can visualize kind of a gray cloud removing itself from your feet. You ask to pour into the bubble, which of course you're inside of, love, compassion, care, truth, and energy, good world-changing energy to just pour into that bubble. So now you have been liberated of a kind of a negative energy. You've protected yourself with this shield that repels any energy that is not anchored to love and light, because you don't allow the bubble to be permeated by anything less. And you filled the bubble with what you exactly want in your life and in your energy body. Let me tell you, I say that over my kids every night as our prayer before bed. And the visualization, because of course a lot of empaths are very visual people, very artistic people, very sensitive people. And it's very comforting, even as kids and even as adults, to imagine like I've actually got this whole bubble around me right now. Like I don't even roll into networking events right now without saying that very simple kind of prayer. And for just to repeat it, it's dear God inside. So the divinity in me, I ask that you surround me with a giant bubble of protection, and any energy not anchored in love and light or for my highest and best would bounce off of it and go back to where it came from with love. That's it. And I can roll into a networking event that would otherwise overwhelm me and drain me. And I will feel full as myself. And I will feel like I'm radiating the peacefulness and the joy that I wish to have in my life, and I will just roll. It's really powerful. So that's something that I find is really important to do. It's important to do before you go to bed. It's because it protects your dream space as well, which is a very targeted place for a lot of us. And it can also be things that you say maybe before you even get out of bed, and you just roll into your day and you set your bubble of protection around you before you sleep and before you enter your day. The second thing that will really help empaths is to learn to set boundaries in a way that feels aligned with your integrity, and to start to find very kind and gentle ways to say no and to stick with it. And imagine that you are your own best friend, because wouldn't that be freaking cool to start showing up as our own best friend? And to show up for ourselves and not betray ourselves, and to be so tuned in to turn our sacred vision to identify needs and desires and emotions in others, to actually give ourselves a second with ourselves, to pour that vision onto ourselves. What do I need right now? What do I desire? What would really help me right now? You're going to know. Unless you've spent decades like I did, totally disconnecting from my needs and wants, and had to get radical with going back into things that I used to like at age 6 to figure out what I would like at age 34, for true story. And I go into great detail in my book about it. Then you want to be able to meet your own needs first and understand and play with. If you are filled up and doing really well, you're in so much service to so many more people. So we intellectually get that, and there'll be a whole episode. There's previous episodes from prior podcasts where I go into much deeper detail around how to set boundaries. So peek into that. It's in the Golden Robe Spiritual Podcast series. And that one's a deep dive for sure on setting boundaries. The third is really simple, and a very nice way to clear your energy is to just get into nature. If you are an empath, you need to be in nature. I cannot tell you how much it fuels you. If you can get your bare toes into any kind of natural surface, so not concrete, but like it can be dirt, it can be sand, it can be grass, it can be moss, it can be dead leaves. It doesn't matter. It could be rocks. Like you just need to get your feet on nature. If you can, even for 20 minutes a day, the brain scans of before and after are so radically different. It just allows all of the negative ions, I believe is how you say it, in your body to go into the earth, and it completely pulls positive energy back through your body. It is such a beautiful thing to do. If you can do that, like even before a toxic meeting or a confrontation or a part of your day that's particularly busy, if you can get outside, it's really powerful. You could go on a walk. Maybe you can't get barefoot. Maybe that's just not a real thing for you, or you have a weird thing with feet. I don't know. That's fine. Just get the sun on your face. Close your eyes and just let the sun be on your face, or go on a walk and just breathe fresh air that the trees have just cleaned for you. Go sit next to a body of water, a little river, stream, drink a cup of tea for 5 minutes. It's transformative. It fuels you like a Tesla Powerwall fuels your Tesla. It's a really big thing. And then the fourth thing that you want to do is you really want to explore, and whether you believe in it or not, maybe you just get to be curious and skeptical combined, but really start to understand your karma. All karma really is unresolved issues and lessons that have carried over from previous lifetimes, or sometimes even from your ancestral lineage. So even though 20 years ago people laughed at the idea that you could inherit trauma from family, we now teach it in schools. 20 years later, it's called epigenetics. The idea is that you can inherit the lived experience trauma of your ancestors, your mother's side, your father's side, going back up to what they believe to be 13 generations back. Whoa. So even if you don't believe in past lives, there is a ton of stuff that you are carrying in your backpack of trauma that a lot of it's not even yours, but it triggers you in real time, in real life, because you're so sensitive, because you're so big-hearted. If the more of that you have, the more unsafe the world feels, because so much more of the world triggers you, flares you, makes you feel unsafe in your body, makes you go into a fight, flight, stress response. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn stress response. And it's a real thing. So if you really want to get to a place where you can harness your empathic big self to be a beautiful asset to you and doesn't always feel like a liability, you really want to look into these kind of 4 areas. And if you're not sure where to start with karma, I will drop a link in the show notes to book a session with me, because I can absolutely help you do that. And based on how your spirit team wants me to price it, I will help you move that karma off of you. And we'll look into your ancestral lineage. We'll look into your past lives. In about a month or 2, I'm going to release a product that will actually teach you how to do it for yourself for $97. So you can also hang in for that. And I'll drop a link to join the wait list for what's called the Liberated Lightworker System. It is so powerful. I have been channeling that with my guides for the past month and a half. It's been really, really powerful. So just to recap, if you are struggling as an empath, you identify yourself as an empath, it feels like more of a burden than it feels like a gift. There's my bubble of protection prayer. Play with that. Make it your own. Use it to clear your energy. Set boundaries. There's a whole episode that I did, and I'll link that in the show notes as well. Just go into nature. Third thing you can do, go into nature. Try to create a way to be in nature every day. Even if you just buy a plant and you love it, or you buy flowers every week from the supermarket and you just spend time absorbing the energy and enjoying the flowers as they're blooming. And then fourth, start to get serious about the karmic burdens that you're holding that are creating limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging patterns, heightened triggers around you. When people say stuff, you're like, I don't know why I'm so mad, but I'm so mad every time with predictability. It may not be from you. It may be from your ancestors. It may be from past lives, whether you believe in them or not. You don't have to believe in past lives for a past life karmic clearing to work and liberate you. That's the good news. These are some really powerful ways to navigate the world as an empath. So I hope that this was a fun episode for you and a relatable episode for you, because I believe that the world is so served by big-hearted empaths being liberated, being awakened to the magic of their gifts, and to understand how big-hearted humans out there are absolute leaders and change makers, but when we're burdened and when we're dull and when we've absorbed all the toxic feelings, we can actually become really warped versions of a very otherwise beautiful gift. And we don't want that for one another, for ourselves, or the world. That's a wrap on another episode of 100% Woo Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me for today's magical journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe button so you never miss a drop of spiritual wisdom. I'd love to connect with you on social. You can find me on Instagram or TikTok at Paden Hughes, Paden Hughes, for more inspiration and insights. And if you found value in today's episode, please consider leaving your review. Your feedback means the world to me personally. I read each and every one, and it just so happens to help us reach more women like you ready to step into their magic. Until next time, keep shining your light.